Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another exciting week of Muskogee Rougher football. BiIl Huddleston, along with the head coach of the Ruffers, Rafe Watkins. Season number 5 started with a bang, a big win over McAlester.
It was a good win. You know, we have a lot of youth out on the field, starting about 7 sophomores, and even a lot of the juniors that were starting are inexperienced juniors, and so was really proud of the effort that the kids gave in our preseason scrimmages and then the practices, and it all added up to a good victory for us last week against McAlester.
Rafe, you and I talked over the weekend about some guys that had to step up under pressure, and I don't think there was one young man that had more eyes on him than your sophomore quarterback, and Ty Williams answered the call.
Ty had a good game. You know, he made some sophomore mistakes still. And if you were at the game, some of our option plays, we had to explain that a 2-yard loss is better than a turnover, which was fortunate we didn't have the turnover from it. But I think his overall performance was really good. You know, to be the first start for him for a sophomore, and he's a very good athlete, as everybody realizes. But there's still a lot of pressure on you as a quarterback in a program like this, and his expectations of what he has to do for this team. And we just try to tell him, you know, and Coach Callens has done a really good job with him, to just play within himself, do the best that he can do, and don't worry about the rest. Let everybody else around him take care of themselves, and he'll be just fine.
We always talk about the special kids and the primetime guys, the guys that get into the end zone, but the guys that too often get overlooked and really answered a lot of questions to themselves as well as coaches and fans was that offensive line.
Well, they've improved, and you know, over the last 2 years, we've really been hard on our offensive line because we haven't been able to run the ball like we want to, and you can't win championships without running the ball. You know, last year we threw for 1 jillion yards and was 500 ball club, but this year, you know, we went for over 300 and I think 332 yards the other night rushing. Had Jimmy with 187 yards. Ty was right at 99, and then Caleb had the one run for 33. So we had some kids that got in there, and it all goes back to, yes, those are all 3 special athletes, but they couldn't have done it with that line, and we've been hard on them. And, you know, we've talked about we're only going to be as good as them. Well, I have to say and brag on them, and I told it in the paper the other day and telling it again here and telling it tonight on our radio show. But the offensive line, as you can watch some of these highlights later on, especially with Jimmy's runs, they just wore down McAlester finally. I mean, we got some big boys up there, and they finally have gotten to lean on them, and they kept leaning, and I was really proud of our offensive staff of continuing to stick with the running game and trying to wear them out, and it ended up in the second half of showing.
Pretty much in all 3 facets, offense, defense, and kicking game, the Ruffers did their job against the Buffaloes in that week number 1 win. Let's roll to our video highlights and take a look at some of the big plays from last Friday night's week 1 opener. Coach, and here's just what we were talking about, defense bringing pressure, and down he goes for the first time of, I think, 4, Colton Edwards.
Colton Edwards had 4 sacks, Nikaury had 1, and Davion had 1, and so was really proud of the effort that the defense. We knew that was our strong point of our team, and they didn't disappoint at all. Jordan Bradley, you know, it was in the quarterback race with Ty. We moved him to wide receiver and had a good night, had 3 catches. Here's Ty's first touchdown. That was on our first drive. It's a good way to start the season off.
Nice decision by him to cut that back against the defense. And then again, there came Davion. I'm going to call him Mr. D all year long because he's kind of looking like Mr. T of the TV series. But he makes a difference in the game, that's for sure.
Well, those 2 inside guys, they clog the hole and make it easier for linebackers. Now, here's one that it ends up being a good play. That's one of those that's not, you know, textbook of how we want to pitch the ball, but it ended up working in this case. Jimmy, again, you know, is the only returning person that had any varsity experiences on offense, and until he got his collarbone broken, I thought he really ran well. He ran well here in the first half, but it was the second half to where, you know, we're going to see his 88-yard run here in a minute in the first half. But when they started wearing him down, him getting the 10 and 12-yarders, that's what we really liked.
Nice to see Ty finding his blockers to get him that extra yardage.
That was a good, strong run. You know, he knocks the pylon down. They give him the touchdown, and so we're sitting at 14-0 right now. We have a few things that bobble and go wrong for us a little bit later, and let them back in the late second quarter. It looked like we got a little tired. Here's Jimmy's 80-yard run. We've been on our receivers. Look at the back. You know, those 2 receivers take their guys out. You have Kentrell Mitchum, what's sitting there making the lane for him, and he hits it. I thought we had deja vu again of the old Booker T, but luckily Jimmy got in there. I was glad he was able to dive
absolutely,
there
and that was our game changer moment of the night.
Right. Here's again Ty improvising. This is what he allows you to have because we had a low snap and he's able to turn, because that was not the play, and he's able to turn it into a positive gain. This young man right here is just a sophomore, and he may end up being our best football player. Caleb Webb, he had a great night defensively. I think you're going to see some of his tackles here shortly. Here's one of them. He comes up and lays them out. They're going to quit throwing out in the flat because he's right there. Here comes another one, and that was on their good receiver, and I think he has even a third one down here in a minute. But outstanding for a sophomore, is going to be an outstanding player for us. Jimmy, here's a good strong run. You know, this is where I was talking about we're starting to wear them down. They're getting tired. This entire drive, these are all the same drive, and we just kept using old Jimmy and using him as a workhorse. He gets down here and was going to bring him out. We said, no, let's keep going, let him get him a touchdown, another one. And then this one, you can see our lines is driving him back, and he runs in basically untouched.
What a night for the Roughers in the season opener, and it started strong and it finished strong, and that's what you as a coach and your staff want, is start fast with the first 2 times you touch the football, you put it in the end zone, started strong defensively, and you ended the game the same way.
And the special teams, I thought they were outstanding. You know, they never had any return after the first one. They got up to about the 40, but we have so many young kids on that flying down. We had some freshmen on there, a couple of freshmen are playing on it, lots of sophomores. We have a lot of speed on it, though, and it's showing that they're going down there. And I can't say enough for our old kicker, Gage Foreman.
Absolutely.
Sophomore, come in, little old skinny leg thing, but he went 5 for 5 on his extra points, put 1 kickoff in the end zone, and then placed it where we wanted to every time that we wanted. So, you know, for the first night and having so many young kids, I was really, really proud of the way they responded.
Like I said, it's an overall victory for the Roughers to put Muskogee at 1-0. We come back, we're going to give you a chance to meet up close and personal one of the game changers in the defensive front. Senior Nikaury Rufffin will join us. And then later on, Coach and I will break down the game plan for Muskogee's week number 2 opponent, the Bombers of Midwest City. That when we continue on TV 15. Welcome back on TV 15. BiIl Huddleston along with the coach of the Roughers, Rafe Watkins, and coach, the guy between us in the middle. Well, he plugs the middle defensively for that front 3, and he makes a big difference each and every snap. That's Nikaury Rufffin.
Well, Nikaury's just been a great player for us the last 2 years, and this year we knew he was going to be a special player. Had a great off season in the weight room. You know, he's squatting 600 pounds, and that's where we stopped because we was afraid, you know, anything after that was dangerous. But he is such a strong young man. Has been a great leader for us out of that senior group, which we only have 7 seniors this year, and so he's doing a great job of leading the team, always demanding a double team and taking care of business, and had 9 tackles and 1 sack last week during the game, and so we couldn't ask for a lot more out of Nikaury.
Coach talked about the powerlifting, and I know it became almost a mano-a-mano battle between you and Davion in the weight room. Set the record straight, Kari. Who's the stronger of the 2, you or Mr. D?
I think I'm the strongest one.
You have a particular one you like, the bench, the squat, whatever?
I think I'm pretty good at squat. I like that.
How does that help you in your position there on the defensive front to have that immediate blast, and then once you get to the quarterback, make sure he goes flat on his back?
I don't know. It's just when your legs are that strong, it's kind of hard to stop you. I don't know.
Now, obviously, the play of the front line is huge in the defensive scheme of the Roughers, and it's kind of nice to have you and Davion, your powerlifting buddy, along with the guy out on the edge, Colton Edwards, who I think is already after Big Mike's record.
Yes, sir.
Now, tell me about this unique hairstyle. Coach, we had to actually make the frame in the program a little bit bigger, just so the hair would fit inside there. But it kind of goes with his high level of intensity.
That's kind of his persona. His hair. He's kind of like Samson.
And we're not going to cut it either.
No, we're not.
Absolutely. And what you can't see are his taxi cab style shoes, but he plays with that nonstop mentality. Let's bring it to the classroom, Kari. I asked you about this last week. You got a particular teacher, a particular class you like here at Muskogee High?
Weightlifting, if I'm allowed to say that. Other than that, I've always been pretty good at math. I like that. I like the subject.
And he uses those math skills to add up those tackles for loss, and that's
We
what
need to add up a bunch this week.
absolutely looking for a straight A on the defensive test this week against the Midwest City Bombers. A guy that makes a big difference in the middle for the Ruffers, senior Nikaury Rufffin, our guest here in this segment. When Coach and I come back, we'll scout the Bombers of Midwest City, the Week 2 opponent from Muskogee. That after this timeout on TV 15. Back on TV 15, BiIl Huddleston with head coach Rafe Watkins, 35-12, 35-4. Let's start this Series 3 again. I can't add. Jeez. 3, 2, 1. Welcome back on TV 15. Week 1 in the books, 35-14, the final victory over McAlester. Coach, that's all watered down the Arkansas now because your focus has to turn to a team that not only knows how to win, they play fast, they play strong, the Bombers of Midwest City.
Yeah, it's a whole different animal. They're a very outstanding football team, very talented. They go over week 0 to Arkansas and play Bentonville High, which is perennial power over there. They've won state championships. They're always big and physical, have a huge enrollment, and went over there and beat them in overtime, 28-25, I believe was the final score on it, or 25-22. They won by a field goal. Had an outstanding night. Come back last week and played the #1 team and 2-time defending champion Carl Albert and crosstown rival. First time they'd played in several years, and so Carl Albert got after him early. Midwest City had a couple of kids go out early in the game that kind of, I think, changed it a little bit. But the bottom line was Carl Albert really played well. But Midwest City, they've got size, speed all over the field. They got 2 300-pound tackles that are both D1 offers to them already on offense. And the thing that I really like about both of those kids is they play with that defensive lineman mentality. I don't like it for us, but I love as an offensive line to play with that defensive lineman mentality that they're going to be physical. And they do. They play very hard. Naturally, their quarterback, Colbert kid, was a returning starter for the last 2 years. We played against him. Senior this year, threw for over 3,500 yards last year and only 2 interceptions. He's very efficient. He's got a great arm and runs the ball well too. He's still a question mark. I think he's one of those that went out in the game. Word back is that he dislocated his kneecap, but he came back in for a while. Don't know if we'll see him. It doesn't matter. If he does come, he's got a better throwing arm than what their sophomore they come in with. If not, that sophomore is a lot like Ty, very, very athletic young man. They'll probably look to run the ball a little more with him. And they also brought in one of their linebackers to play quarterback late in the 4th quarter who looks, he's a great athlete also. The passing game definitely goes down if the Colbert kid's not playing, but they're still physical and will run the ball. They got 2 or 3 tailbacks they rotate in there. Defensively, they've got speed all over the field, great secondary, linebackers that are very aggressive, and then a big nose guard that weighs about 330 pounds and demands a double team.
Well, certainly it's going to give the Ruffers a handful of challenge, but as we've often said, Rafe, it's not so much about what the Bombers will do, but it's about Muskogee and what we do or taking care of our business.
Right, and it's what I said last week on a radio show, and I'm not going to sit here and be a liar about it. We want to be 3-0. But as I said last week, we want to get, and we're working on ourselves just as much as we're working on Midwest City. We've got to get better at the things that we're going to do later on in district play to get to the playoffs and get to hopefully a state championship run. But we're getting better each and every day, and that's the fun part of having young kids. You see them growing and doing better. That's what we're going to continue to work on this week. And, again, a great challenge ahead of us, #2 team in the state coming, and with the tradition they have. We're 1-1 in the last 2 years with them, both been close games. We beat them there 16-12. They beat us last year here 26-20. So look for an exciting game. It'll be a good, great football game.
And it's also going to be Little Rougher Night, and all the future stars of Rougher football will be there from the Paul Young Football League as well as INFC. So parents will want to have their kids out there all dressed in their uniforms, running out along with their cheer squads. That'll get started around 6:15, 6:20. Our pregame live stream coverage will begin on MuskogeeAthletics.com at 6:30 and kick off from Indian Bowl against the Midwest City Bombers straight up at 7 o'clock. For head coach Rafe Watkins and our guest, the hair god, Nikaury Rufffin, I'm BiIl Huddleston. Thank you for joining us. It's always a great day to be a Rougher.